All right, you ready? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 23, 2021 Urbandale City Council meeting. I asked the clerk to take roll call, please.
Carberry Montgomery. Here. Caduce.
Here.
Obrecht.
Here.
Hoagie.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
Thank you.
If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Urbandale is a national leader in character council, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Moved.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by Pogie. Discussion.
Yeah, we aren't battling on.
Please vote.
Beds.
Okay, that passes. Item 3 is Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda. Before I open it up to the general public, I am going to recognize our Polk County Supervisor, Robert Brownell, to give us an update from Polk County. So Bob, the floor is yours for now.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Robert Brownell, Polk County Board of Supervisors. The mayor has become a big Creighton fan, so he wanted me to wear this shirt tonight. I don't know why. Sorry, Bob. Couldn't resist. I had a couple of things here that I thought might interest you, and 2 or 3 things, actually. And I start with vaccinations. Vaccinations are going pretty well here in Iowa and in Polk County. We've vaccinated about 1.3 million people, at least with one shot here in Iowa, and about 500,000 with both shots. That's about 16% of our population, and which puts us about where everybody else is in the Midwest, maybe a little behind in South and North Dakota, but ahead of Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas. So that's going fairly well. Here in Polk County, we vaccinated over 200,000 people alone, mostly with Moderna, but there's some Pfizer involved here too, and some J&J. It's interesting because we can calculate when herd immunity is reached, which is 70% of the population vaxxed. And when we first started measuring this about a month ago or so, maybe 6 weeks, we calculated that the rate we were going 6 weeks ago, it'd be mid-October before we reached herd immunity. And then the pace of vaccinations picked up. As of 2 weeks ago, it was middle of August. And now, as of today, it's right just after the 1st of July. Would be herd immunity, and vaccinations are bound to pick up a bit more even now. So we think that date is going to back up a little bit further even. So that's good news for everybody. But we're getting good response. The Polk County Health is going to be returning to their mission of reaching out to marginalized communities, underserved communities, pretty much. We're dispensing vaccines every week to our partner pharmacies. And also clinics, Unity Point, Mercy, and Broadlawns clinics, and so they're dispensing a lot of the vaccines too. And we're trying to reach out into more marginalized and underserved communities, which is our mission at Polk County Health. So that's going well. On the other hand, hospitalizations have been ticking up a little bit. They've pretty much stabilized, but they're ticked up a little bit statewide. 185 today. It's been down as low as about 150 or so. And so it's ticking up a little bit in our region, which is basically Polk County and several counties around us, all the way down to the Missouri border, but obviously Polk County by far the largest. Running mid-70s for hospitalizations. And in the state, we're referring about under 30 people a day to hospitals, and in the region, about 10. So that's up a little bit, not a lot. It's kind of stabilized. We think what's going on there is variants, mostly the B.1.1.7, which is also known as the UK variant, is coming into play. It's kind of a race between the vaccines and the variants at this point. There's other variants out there, but the one that's seeing the most play right now, in our state at least, is the UK variant. It doesn't stand up to the vaccine. It's very contagious, as you've probably read in the papers and magazines. And can be a little bit more challenging in terms of symptoms. So we want to get that under control, get people vaccinated as quickly as we can, because it does not stand up to the vaccines at all. I think that's all I had on that. I do want to mention that almost all our healthcare workers are vaccinated, which is good, because if we do have a little bit of a surge, which is highly unlikely that we would have a surge, especially like the ones we had in November and December, because so many more vaccinations are going out there right now. But if we do have a little bit of a surge, our hospital workers and medical care providers have been vaccinated, and so that's good. That'll come in handy. I want to move on to budget for a second. We certified our budget today. It's about $350 million, give or take a million or so. It's about 350. And as of late September, we calculated the percent of property taxes collected for all jurisdictions, including yours. And 93% had been collected at that time. And that stands to a normal year of 95%. So it's not off very much. And most of those property taxes have been collected. Now, Governor Reynolds allowed for property taxes to be suspended, the collection of them a little bit. We hadn't really noticed that too much in our jurisdiction. So that's going well, and serves all the jurisdictions, including yours, well, too. We wanted to talk a little bit about, at the Board of Supervisors, we did talk a bit about cutting the levy rate at Polk County a bit. We decided to leave the rate where it was because we have some very earnest concerns about mental health funding and mental health care in our community over the next year or so. There's a lot of mental health issues that are developing from the COVID lockdowns and COVID in general, especially among younger populations, children and adolescents. So we felt like we want to put some money into some of our providers that are providing services. Orchard Place would be a good example, not the only example, of course, but an example. And so we felt like we need the firepower to handle some of these mental health concerns, which I think are going to be fairly profound as time goes on. There has been a 9% increase in assessed valuations in commercial property, believe it or not. A lot of people thought that would go down because of the work from home and empty buildings and so on. It hasn't really occurred. Warehouses led the way there, about 35% increase there. And, hotels, movie theaters, of course, were on the low end of that. In fact, negative numbers there, as you might expect. Residential is about up 8% overall. Urbandale is about 6.5%, I think. Your peer cities are as follows. West Des Moines was 6.5%, about where you're at. Ankeny about 6.5%, and Johnson about 5%. But Des Moines was almost 11%, and Windsor Heights almost 11%. So it kind of bounces around a little bit depending on where you live. But 6.5% was where Urbandale was residentially, and that's fairly representative of cities your size and quality, because we keep an eye on all those. But that's pretty good. So that'll give you a reason why the numbers are going to go up a little bit for everybody. I did want to talk a little bit about stimulus. I texted AJ today to see what the stimulus would be for Urbandale. I think we're still looking into that here in Urbandale, but our stimulus number that we're calculated to get out of $350 billion that's allocated to state and local governments is about $95 million, and which is another big number, obviously, about a third of our budget almost. And so we are investigating very thoroughly with our accounting department as to what it takes to access that money and how long it takes. And it goes over more than 1 year, of course, as you might know. But what are the strings attached to it? There doesn't look like very many strings, to be honest. And but what's the application look like, and how do you do that? And we're working through that right now. And then how to best spend it or how will we do that? So there's a lot of different ideas for that, of course. Finding ways to spend money isn't one of our weak points. So we're working on that as we speak. But we don't know what that's going to look like. There was some debate about whether or not, jurisdictions could cut taxes and be penalized by Congress, which is what the bill says to do. I think that might be unconstitutional. But we're not going to mess around with that. It's our number is fairly similar to Douglas County, Nebraska. They're getting $110 million as their share, and we're taking about 95. So similar-sized communities get about the same. So there can be some good things that come of that, I hope. And then the local jurisdictions like Urbandale and Clive and West Des Moines and others will get their own allocations as well, as I understand it. So something that I probably need some work groups to come together and work on and figure out how you want to handle that. But anyway, Mayor, that's about all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All right, thank you, Bob. Any questions from the council for Bob?
I've got a couple, Bob. Is my mic on?
Hit the button on the.
No, okay, my mic's on now. First of all, I wanted to really say thank you for your commitment to mental health. I think that you're absolutely right, that we're going to see more need, especially among our kids. So I appreciate that you are sticking with, or increasing the funding to those community partners that we have. And then my other question, is Polk County tracking people that get a vaccine out of the county?
Yeah, we're supposed to be doing that, and I don't know what that number is, Bridget, but I know one of our employees is telling me he's got an app that just tracks appointments. And interestingly enough, and he found one, he's eligible, of course, and he found one up in Boone. So how do I know that he got a shot up in Boone? I don't know. I know that we have to track people that live outside Polk County to get vaccinations here in Polk County, and that's not unusual because we have these large hospitals here and all that. So, but we report that to our health department. I don't know what that moves on to.
Because my question, I guess, is everybody, most of the people that I know that are getting vaccines are getting them outside of Polk and Dallas County over the last couple of weeks, even though they reside in Polk and Dallas. So are those going into your numbers? Or is the state tracking?
They would.
Is the state tracking?
Yeah, they go into our regional numbers. Yeah, they go into regional numbers, Bridget, because they're all those counties are all part of our region. But whether they're broken down by county or not, I'll have to check on that, and I'll get back to you about that.
Yeah, I think it's great that, the vaccines are kicking up, but like I've got friends driving all over the state. My best friend drove to Burlington, which is a haul and a half from here to get them, but it's worth it for most people, I think. So I just appreciate everything that Polk County is doing. I know I'm volunteering this weekend at the Corinthian Baptist event, and I'm hoping to see more of those events throughout the community to reach our underserved populations.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing that. We had one last weekend with Church of the Americas for a lot of the Latinx community and had 500 people show up, so that was great. So we're trying to reach out into those communities as best we can.
All right, thanks, Bridget. Any other questions comments for Bob? Well, thank you, Bob, and we hope the Blue Jays can advance some more. Good luck to you on that. So.
I'll keep you posted, Bob.
All right, thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. All right, we're still in Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity then to address the council on something not a part of tonight's regular agenda. So I will open it up. If you are a member of the public and you would like to address the council on something not a part of tonight's agenda, please unmute yourself. If you are on telephone, is that what you mean?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I do need to bring something to your attention. Our link meeting number on our agenda that was posted was not correct.
Okay.
It took people to the April 6th meeting.
Okay.
I do have several viewers on YouTube, so I've placed the correct meeting number, but I thought if I may share it here as well. If you were watching on YouTube, the correct meeting number is 146-444-3710 with a password of 1234 if you were planning on making comments. And I see also, I have a note, the phone code is *6 if you have joined us by phone and you'd like to make comments to unmute.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'll open this up now again, as Nicole said, and if folks don't get on time, but if you do get on later, if you could put something in the chat box, I can always reopen the Citizens Forum at a later time here too. So But at this point, is there anyone that would like to address the council on something not a part of tonight's regular agenda? Okay, hearing none, then we will move on. Item 4 is to adopt the minutes. First, item 4.1 from the March 9, 2021 meeting.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Second by Pogi. Discussion, please vote. Okay, thank you. That passes. And then item 4.2 is from the March 16 lunch and learn.
Move to approve.
Motion by Obrecht. Second by Pogi. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 5 is the consent agenda. We have 9 items for consideration.
Move to approve.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6, public hearings versus item 6.1, which is a continued public hearing regarding the regarding the consideration of the bids for Fire Station 43 masonry repairs. And to introduce this item for tonight is our city engineer, John Larson. John?
There we go. Now I've got my mic on. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Tonight, I'm going to do this maybe a little different. I'm going to start off just kind of giving you a background on the plans and specifications for the public hearing. After we close the public hearing, then I'll go into the different bids and what our recommendation is. So this is our Fire Station 43 masonry repair project. Okay. This project will provide for masonry repairs related to mortar dams and other related issues to the brickwork. Basically, a mortar dam is when there's too much mortar behind the brick and the air cannot circulate behind the bricks, which lets water build up back there, which causes problems with your bricks. So with this project, we'll be replacing the bottom row of bricks and the bricks that are above the windows and the doors. Those mortar dams would be removed. Then we'd install new cell vents and the proper mortar netting would also be installed. We had 2 alternates on the project. The first one would provide for raking and sealant to be installed along the cast stone wall caps. This just basically helps keep more moisture out. And then alternate number 2 would provide for the removal and replacement of the insulation and the through wall flashings above the low entry area roofs. It's anticipated that our project would be completed by June 1st, 2001. So on this first part, I'd be glad to answer any questions related to our plans and specs.
Great, thank you, John. Any questions for John from the council? All right. So at this point, we're going to open up for bidding. Bob, is that correct?
That'd be correct.
Okay. So we are in public hearing on this item. Is there anyone that is on the meeting tonight that would like to address the council on this item?
Bob, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Steve Marceau with Whitfield Netty, and I and my representative of my client, Graphite Construction Group, his name is Russ Carew, would like to speak, and I believe Mr. Carew is on, and I think he would like to start with comments.
Okay.
Hello to everyone tonight. This is Russ Carew. I'm the owner of Graphite Construction Group. We were the contractor originally built the Urbandale Fire Station 43, and have subsequently put in a bid for this masonry repair project that came out. I guess we were the low bid on bid day for the project. And from what I see in the council agenda, it appears you guys are going to reject our bid, and I'm, I guess, stating that we don't agree with the rejection of our bid. We were the low bid by almost $100,000, or right around $100,000. We're local to the city of Urbandale. We're literally blocks from the location and blocks from where you guys are meeting right now. And we're familiar with the project, which is why our number was significantly lower than the other bids. And I guess I feel like the project, we gave a very good number on it based upon our knowledge of the entire situation. And we feel that if you guys are going to reject the bids, or our bid, based upon, I guess, undecided issues with claims we have against the city, I don't agree with that, and I feel like it's not being fair with the situation. You know, we are local, and it's a significant amount of money that's difference between us and the second bidder, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers to make them pay an additional $100,000 plus to do that. And, you know, I am a taxpayer in the city of Urbandale. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on this item?
Yes, this is Steve Marceau.
Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks. I submitted a letter to Mr. Larson and the attorneys for the city, dated today. I don't know if that's been forwarded to everybody, but I would refer everyone to that for a more detailed discussion of the issues involved here, discussion of facts, and some of the legal issues that are at issue here with the proposed rejection of Graphite's bid. I'm not going to repeat all of that, but I will say that I think Mr. Carew indicated that there's not a factual basis or a fiscally good basis for rejection of Graphite's bid. Now, the basis, as I understand, of the recommendation by Mr. Larson and FEH is that Roshan is not a responsible contractor. Now, that word responsible has legal meaning because it is contained in Iowa's competitive bid laws, which the city is bound to follow. The bid laws require the city to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. And so the recommendation is to reject that because Graphite is allegedly not a responsible contractor. And that's a big allegation. And the sole basis for that is the allegation that on a very small portion of this project, and this project was almost $5 million, the Graphite's bid for this project, repair project, is about $63,000. The next lowest is about $154,000. So we're talking about a very, very small portion of this project. And the claim is that Graphite performed defective masonry work. Now, we dispute that. That's going to be an issue to be decided by an arbitrator in a pending arbitration between Graphite and the city of Urbandale that I'm involved in, Mr. Layden's involved in, and counsel from Ollers is involved in. Those issues have not been decided. So FEH and Mr. Larson are claiming that those are facts, that there was defective masonry work, and that's the basis for the non-responsibility. So that's disputed. But second is the concept of responsibility encompasses more than some small portion of one project. You need to analyze the history of a company before you can determine whether they're non-responsible. And the documents that I submitted with my letter, affidavits from graphite individuals, subcontractors, graphite's surety agent, resumes, various other letters clearly demonstrate they are a responsible contractor. They've been around for 20 years in Urbandale. They've done hundreds of projects successfully. And so there simply is no factual basis to support the recommendation. There isn't. And that is why I believe that Mr. Larson and FEH are trying to convince you that you can rely on this disputed masonry work as the sole basis to make that non-responsibility determination. And I'm telling you, legally, that is incorrect. If that's the case, then any of you make a mistake in your profession. Do you think that means, therefore, forever you're non-responsible? No, that's not how it works. And that's not what the statute means. So that issue is discussed in my letter in detail. I did get a copy of FEH's recommendation letter after I sent my letter. And I noticed in there, they make a statement about Graphite's bid not being responsive because it's lower than they thought it would be, the price would be. Again, that is not a valid legal basis to say something is non-responsive. A bid is non-responsive only if, for example, it doesn't actually respond to all the items in the bid form. So if you don't fill it out, for example, you leave blanks all over, you don't sign it, for example, you add conditions to your bid, that is non-responsive. It's not non-responsive, you just think the bid's too low. And in this case, the city should welcome that. You would save $100,000 using a local contractor who uses local residents, pays taxes in Urbandale, and the recommendation you're getting is to reject that and hire an out-of-state Kansas contractor $100,000 more to do this work. And I don't think that's legally sound, and it sure isn't fiscally sound or politically sound. And so we strongly object to this recommendation. We suggest that the City Council vote to award the contract to Graphite. Thank you.
Steve? Is there anyone else like to address the council on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask that ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I'll move that we close the public hearing on this item.
Motion by Cartwright Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. Okay, thank you. That passes. And then I'll ask for a motion and a second on the first resolution.
Before we go to the motion, can I ask, I see Bob's here, although I can't see him on the other side of the computers, but what is involved in the arbitration?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the arbitration, which has not been scheduled yet, involves what we believe is a breach of the contract. And Mr. Marceau and his client believe we still owe significant monies. And it involves more than just this masonry issue. It involves quite a few other issues. In addition, I want to make sure we have the record made tonight. Steve Marceau did provide us with his letter. It has been provided to the council, but it should be made part of this record here tonight and considered part of the record. In addition, FEH has submitted a letter. That should be part of this record tonight. Also, one of the reasons we're recommending you accept the second low bidder is not just what Mr. Marceau said, but if you look at section 9.3.1.3 of the instruction of bidders, it says we can consider rejecting a low bidder due to lack of responsibility as evidenced by poor workmanship and progress of past work. Further, in the instruction of bidders, it says we can reject a low bidder for being in arrears on existing contracts in litigation with the owner or having defaulted on a previous contract. That's pursuant to 9.3.1.5. And we believe that the responsibility, as evidenced by Roshan. Now, Mr. Carew talks about graphite. Our contract's with Roshan. Graphite is some new business, apparently, that Mr. Carew has just recently, I think, incorporated. I'm not quite sure. In addition to that, the actual difference is not 100 grand. It's 71,705 when you add in alternates 1 and 2. And we take the low bid. And so the record should reflect that it's not just what Mr. Marceau indicated, but also those 2 sections. I would also tell you, Mr. Mayor and council, co-counsel in this case, Maria Brownell is on with us this evening. We also have our architect from FEH, who would be Corey Sharp. Corey is also on this call this evening, and so we'd all be happy to answer any additional questions that the council may have.
This is Steve Morris. I'd like to correct one incorrect statement.
Steve, I'm gonna stop you there. The public hearing is closed on this, so at this point, it's at the council for consideration, so.
Well, it's Graphite's not a new company. The name change.
I guess a quick question for me. The previous project is in arbitration, and I'm guessing the insurance company with the bid bond is involved as well on the fire station piece?
I'm not aware that they're involved. They've been put on notice, if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
Yes.
And then as far as like the cost of this, will that cost go into the arbitration case, or is this totally separate, work on the hook for these dollars no matter what?
When you say the cost, you talk about legal fees, or you talk about?
The cost of redoing the masonry.
That's part of the arbitration claim.
Okay.
Mr. Marceau's letter, he claims they've done nothing wrong, although they've submitted a bid to fix work they claim they didn't do wrong.
Okay.
Mayor, would now be an appropriate time for me to make a general comment about this project? Or no?
At this point, we have 3 items for consideration. First would be,
Under the next item, are we going to have a discussion awarding the contract?
we can do that. The first item would be just simply to adopt the plan specs and form of the contract and estimate of cost, which should be pretty straightforward, so.
I'll do a motion to approve resolution 80-2021.
Second.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Then I'll open it up for comment then, or motion, or.
Get to the bids or run through that part?
Sure, John, let's do that first.
Want me to do that part first?
Yeah, John's gonna walk through the bids. So we've passed the form of contract and the specs. Let's walk through the bids, John. And then we'll have discussion and consideration of the remaining resolutions.
Okay, so it was back on March 3rd. We received bids for the project. We received 4 bids on the project. And as it was previously stated, the Iowa Code does require that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. During the construction of Fire Station 43, it was noted in several of our defect logs that there was concerns with the masonry work. So we did have destructive testing completed by a third party. Oh, sorry, I thought I did that. Sorry. Different problem tonight from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, let me try it again. All right. Okay. There we go. So, just as I did say, though, that we did note in our defect logs throughout the project that we had issues with the masonry work. So we had that third party, an independent third party come in and do destructive testing to confirm that there were issues with the masonry work. So again, with this project, we're going to repairs by replacing the bottom row of bricks and the bricks along the windows and doors. The mortar dam will be removed, and then the new cell vents, a proper mortar net will be installed. As we mentioned, Roshan Corporation is now doing business as Graphite Construction Group, did the original work that was defective on the fire station. And to us, they've shown they're unable to provide the high level of craftsmanship and quality required for the repair of this work. As Bob had mentioned, in our instructions to bidders and that are outlined in the council memo, it does give us some options for rejecting a bid related to their past workmanship or if they have any current litigation with the city. And that's why we're rejecting the Graphite Construction Group as a responsible bidder. As they had mentioned, we had received a letter from them and we wanted that to become part of the record today. And then based on our recommendation, or the recommendation letter from FEH Design and our past issues on the fire station, staff is recommending approval of what we consider the low responsible bid from Mid-Continental Restoration Company Incorporated, including alternates numbers 1 and 2, in the amount of $154,875. Their low bid is $68,605, or 31% less than the engineer's estimate of $223,480. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions from the council for John? Okay. Did you,
I just have comments, they're not questions.
okay,
As a resident of Dallas County who is served by this fire station and whose local option sales tax dollars pay for this fire station, I feel like we deserve the very best craftsmanship and value for our money. And I have the utmost respect for our engineering staff and our legal team in guiding us in this direction to accept the bid from Mid-Continental Restoration. As all of you know, my good friend who lives about 5 houses down had a house fire in December right before Christmas, and we are very lucky that we have this fire station, but it took a lot longer than it was supposed to. And, you know, if it would have gone further off track, we might not have had that fire station, and my friend's house might not have been saved to the extent that it was. So I just feel like we need to be doing the right thing to make sure that someone is going to be doing the quality of work that we need to be, that we're paying for and that we did not necessarily receive with the original construction. So I feel very comfortable paying Mid-Continental Restoration to do the work on the project. If you want me to make that a motion, Adam.
you want to make that a formal
I
motion?
will make a motion to approve Resolution 081-2021 to make the award of the contract to Mid-Continental Restoration in the amount of $154,875 for the masonry repairs.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Obrecht. Any further discussion? If not, please vote. That passes. We have one more resolution.
Move to approve Resolution 082-2021.
A motion by Obrecht. Second. Second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, thank you. Item 6.2 is a public hearing to consider the operating budget for fiscal year 21-22. The public notice for this was published in the March 6, 2021 Des Moines Register, and ask if there are any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. That passes. So to introduce this item is our finance director, Nikki Lamb. Nikki?
All right. Sorry, there's a message in the middle of my screen here. All right, tonight we have the fiscal 21-22 budget for your consideration. I'm just gonna walk through a couple slides of highlights from the process. I know you all have been in depth with the process, but for the public and those viewing, this year's budget, there we go, forward. Not sure why it's not going forward. There it goes. All right. So within our budget this year, we break it down into operating items and then all of the other categories that we pay attention to. So the operating budget is about just shy of $56 million. That does not include things like debt, capital, local option sales tax, and our water utility. That's about a 4.2% increase over the previous year. And of that, personnel costs make up about 53% of our budget, which our service provision is all about the people that are providing the services to our residents. So that is not a shocking number. It's usually between 50 and 55%, so we're right on target with that. Our average daily cost per capita, using the last official census at $42,449, is about $3.61. So a decent cup of coffee a day covers all of those operating costs for our entire city. So I'm still right on track with that. I do break down the rest of the categories that go into the official certified budget. Local option sales tax brought in about $8.1 million, which is 2.3% above the current year. Debt retirement costs, that one is slightly lower, but it's still pretty on track. We're retiring about $6.1 million in debt, but the $18 million covers that piece included. Capital projects, there was a huge swing in that, mostly because of the Public Works facility that's been, the construction for that. This current budget has $49 million in expenditure, so that one is finally done. It comes down to 22.6, so a huge 54% decrease in costs, but that just means your projects are getting done and we're almost done paying for them. And then water utility, which is an independent component unit of the city, but it is included in our budget, and their number came in about $26 million. So a total certified budget of $134 million. Next slide. This year's budget does incorporate 4 additional positions, 3 of those being firefighter, EMT, full-time positions, and 1 new administrative tech that will be in that new facility that I just mentioned that, on Hickman Road. Big impacts to our expenditures are always pension rates. The 411, which covers our police and fire, went up from 25% to 26%, and no change for that's all on the employer side. There wasn't any change on the employee side. IPERS did not have any change. Other items that we talked about during our budget process, the hotel motel grant funding program was suspended for fiscal 22, just due to lack of hotel motel revenue coming in. We actually just got our last quarter of payment, and it's the lowest it's ever been, even worse than last year. So I am glad that we did suspend that program because we would not have been able to fund any grants out of that this year. Another that was more recent is the final pool closure. As I spoke to you during budget work session, if that decision was made before we actually published the document, those pages have been reflective of now the demolition costs and things that are going to go along with that, but it did not change our total budgeted number. We used those same costs to cover the other items that we talked about for starting the planning and designing of the new facility and demolition of the current facility. So that'll cover between this spring as well as into the fall. So most of it will probably happen in this budget that we're setting. The other big items from the expense side, full year of 43 being open. So that fire station is fully up and operational. This will be the first full year of actual people in the building the entire year. And then the new Public Works facility should be online, hopefully all 12 months, but we're going with at least 11 or 12 months of the year. Just a reminder of where our levy ended up. We lowered the levy down to $10.11. This is kind of how that split breaks out. I know you're all quite familiar with that. We lowered the debt service levy 10 cents, but had the offsetting 5-cent increase on the police and fire pension levy. This is just our same chart. We always cover showing you where our dollars come from. Property tax continues to be the biggest piece of our pie at about 64% of our budget. And then in those categories, just kind of showing where that starts to come in. This one is finally showing some difference in the red bucket there and other city taxes. That's local option sales tax. So you can see that percentage is starting to grow, and that helps provide some of the relief in the other areas of our budget. On the expenditure side, no big fluctuations there either. We do keep capital out of this graph because it really skews it significantly. So this focuses on our core operations, which does include debt service. We try to aggressively pay off our debt, so we shoot to be 25% or less, but trying to be as close to that as possible. That means we're retiring debt as fast as we can. And then as I mentioned before, the blue section covers what our biggest cost is our people. We're providing services, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. So that is actually a really good number. Most communities are in the 60 to 80% of their budget is covered with people, depending upon what their operations are. So anything around that 50 to 60% is considered really excellent. And that's all I have for highlights. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Nikki. Any questions from the council for Nikki?
That was really impressive graphs that you used there. I liked the pyramids. Could you send that to us? I'd love to look at it a little longer, but.
Yeah, we can attach it to the actual council letter so that it was out there. We were just waiting for the pool updates to go through so I could update everything and have it jive.
All right. Anything further from the council? We are in public hearing on this item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council on our budget? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And 2 items for consideration.
I'll move to approve resolution 96.
Okay, motion by Poggi.
Second.
Second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Okay, motion by Poggi.
Second.
Second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. Okay, thank you. That passes. Once again, I want to thank AJ and Nikki and the entire finance team and all the department heads, certainly, and everybody on down. I mean, for all the effort that goes into this. This is simple. It looks simple, but there's a lot of work behind it, as we always say, and we know there's a lot of work, and we, as elected officials, see just a small part of that, but we try to do our part to provide that. But thank you to our staff that really make this a good working budget and a sound and defendable budget for our citizens. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to item 6.3 is a public hearing to consider the Kramer property rezoning from A1 Agricultural Reserve District to the R1S Suburban Density Single Family District at 17615 Meredith Drive. The public notice for this was published in the March 12, 2021 Des Moines Register. And I have to ask if there are any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
It's for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. And to introduce it is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. We'll share the screen here. I've got 10 things I'm getting ready to roll through, and I don't have any pretty graphs or pyramids, so I hope.
You have good maps.
I do have what I hope are going to be some very exciting projects, so that's a good thing. Let's see. Okay, we're good. So this first item, whoop, you know what? Hang on. This is not the correct one. I need to show you the right map. Where are? Let me see if I can do it this way. Okay, now let's try to up, and then if we do it again. There we go. Okay. And let me enlarge this. All right, sorry about that. Now we're set. Okay, so this is the first one, first of 3 rezonings. This is for the Kramer property, which is on the north side of Meredith, west of 170th. So here is 170th Street. The small lots that you see here are the Radiant Point plat, which has been constructed. The new Radiant Elementary is up here to the north on the west side of 170th. So this is Meredith. The property that's got the big pond, there's actually 2 properties that are involved on the north side of Meredith. It is about 39 acres. This rezoning has been requested to take care of the typical nonconformities with respect to lot area, lot width, and setbacks that do apply to the property. But also, we do know that they are planning to come in with a preliminary plat sooner rather than later to divide the property into single-family residential lots. These will be on the larger side, particularly around the pond. There's an opportunity there for some really nice lots. We've seen a concept plan with the developer, and we're thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of probably about 50 single-family lots when that plat comes in. So obviously that will come to you once it is submitted, but this is just for the rezoning. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval subject to the items that are noted, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions from the council for Steve on this item?
Steve, is the road, is Meredith paved all the way to the end of that property?
I don't think it goes all the way. I'm trying to remember exactly where it does stop now. I think it is. I think it is right about the west side of that property. It's somewhere close to that.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Yeah.
What sort of, as we're doing Waterford Road and we've gotten money in the bank from the developers to do sidewalks and road improvements, what sort of things are we getting from them?
Same thing that we typically do with this type of development is that there'll be an assessment, there'll be a per foot fee for 2 lanes of pavement and for sidewalk, and we'll get that as part of the platting process, and we'll show you those details when the plat comes in.
So will we be doing a complete streets here, EJ?
I'm sorry. I don't know that that's been determined yet. We haven't had any internal discussion on it. We typically are going to look at when they do arterial streets, either reconstruction or new construction. So let me check and get back with you on that one and see if that's a candidate for the complete street project.
Well, thank you. It's not a big question, but it's on the top of mind with our other projects that we're doing. I'm just excited to see our westward expansion, Destiny, west of Alice's 170th. I struggle with that. So I'm excited to see this.
You will see when the plat comes in, you'll see the connectivity that we've got. This parcel immediately to the north has been rezoned, and we have a preliminary plat for that. And you're getting ready to see a rezoning request for the property north of that.
Oh, wow.
That's owned by Accurate. So you'll be able to see as those come in, how we're getting the connectivity through the neighborhoods to have all that work together, so.
And I hope there'll be connectivity to the school.
Yes, there is a sidewalk that the school has built, which comes out through there, and you'll see that when that plat comes in for the rezoning that's up here. Yep.
Fantastic.
All right, any further questions or comments before we open it up to public hearing? Again, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anybody from the public like to address the council on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
McCarthy Montgomery,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
I will be abstaining on this because of a relationship I have with them, so.
Then motion to approve. Council Letter 6665.
Okay, motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. All right, thank you. That passes. Item 6.4 is public hearing to consider the Etchen property, Meredith Point Business Park amendment to the Plan Unit Development Master Plan at 4701 Northwest Urbandale Drive. The public notice for this was published in the March 12, 2021 Des Moines Register, and asked are any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for motion and a second to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Pogge,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Steve?
Okay. This is the Meredith Point Business Center at the corner, northeast corner of Meredith and Northwest Urbandale Drive. There's 3 buildings, and this amendment request is specifically for Lot 3, which is the back building, the rear building back in the back. Specifically, it's to add a category from the SIC manual that is top body and upholstery repair shops and paint shops. With the exception of body shops, collision shops, and paint shops. They have a tenant that would like to go in there, that their primary business is detailing and upholstering of boats. They also do some automobiles, but it's primarily boats. And that wasn't one of the uses that they anticipated. We looked at the PUD and it did not include it, so we always want to err on the side of transparency and bring these through to make sure that we go through the proper process. So they have assured us that this will be an appointment-only type of business and that all of the work will be done inside of the building. And so that seemed to be a reasonable match, even though there is residential immediately to the east. We thought that this was probably a use that would work pretty good for that particular building. The front B-tip building is more retail, and this isn't really a retail operation because it is appointment only, and thought this was the right place for it. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer questions on this one.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on this?
And just quickly, it's the northeast building of the property, right? It's the one that backs up to the residential?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, any other comments? We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, hearing none, ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Motion by Caduce.
Second.
Second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. As for a motion and a second on the item.
Move to approve council letter 6666.
Okay, motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. Okay, thank you. That passes. Item 6.5 is a public hearing to consider the Ziegler property amendment to the planned unit development master plan at 2601, 2601 104th Street. And the public notice for this was published in the March 12, 2021 Des Moines Register. Ask if there are any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Yes, for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Pogge, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Steve?
This is the Ziegler property PUD, Hickman Road here at the bottom of the screen. This is the existing CarMax. The existing building to the north, 2 men and a truck, is the tenant that is in there. This is an amendment for this particular PUD to allow some additional uses that will meet the needs of an anticipated tenant that is going to do, it's going to be a vehicle service center for electric vehicles that solely use electric, no gasoline involved here. So they will build out the remainder of this building that is currently vacant. And then within that space, they'll be leasing electric vehicles, and then your standard basic service that would be provided to the electric vehicles. It'll include software updates, tire replacement, tire balancing, wheel alignment, very minor body work and painting, topping off water, just the typical types of service for electric batteries. I would note just briefly that you probably saw some discussion in the P&Z minutes about those batteries, and representatives after the close of that P&Z meeting did provide us with some information that indicated that they will not store batteries on this property. They ship them to the site as they are needed. And if there are batteries that need to be replaced or repaired, those are taken out and they are shipped off-site to a different location for repair. So will not be any battery storage being done on the site. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval. Would be happy to answer questions on this one.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on this item?
Steve, my only question was, I didn't see it in there. Why both properties?
We have had a pre-application meeting for another building to be built on this vacant lot to the south. So we expect a site plan to be coming in, and they're trying to cover all the bases and thinking maybe they'll have some related products or tenants in that building. So, yep.
Thank you.
All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, hearing none, ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Pogge, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote.
I apologize, slow clicking here, just a moment.
All right, that passes. Okay, motion by Caduce,
Second.
second by Pogge. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. Thank you. Item 6.6 is a public hearing to consider the mobile food units amendment to the zoning ordinance. The public notice for this was published Also in the March 5, 2021 Des Moines Register, ask for any objections to that. Excuse me, notices published.
There were none.
Ask for motion and a second to open the public hearing.
I moved to open the public hearing.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Hoagie. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. Steve?
Okay, I do not have a drawing for this. Nicole, AJ, somebody heads up. I seem to have a mouse that has a dead battery, so for the remaining items, if we have replacement batteries somewhere as we're talking about this, that would be great. And I'm pretty sure it's batteries because the light keeps going off on the, so anyway, okay. So while we're working on that, hopefully that will take care of it. So as you all know, we've had a pilot program for food trucks since 2017. It's gone well, I assume. I think we gave you the totals in the report of what we've had for each year. Back last November, you might recall, at a lunch and learn, we did discuss what this proposed ordinance, the language that's in here. And so essentially what we're doing is just going to, we're just going to memorialize what we've been doing for the past 4 years, essentially, with this language and actually make it part of the zoning code. We would consider it to be a temporary use. Similar to some other seasonal temporary uses that we have in there. Probably the main one that we get most often is for the selling the sweet corn, during the summer. They come get a temporary use permit. They find a location, we get the permission of the property owner, and we issue a permit, and it's seasonal. It's good seasonally, essentially. And so what we're proposing to do, we're doing this a little bit different, and we have not had any complaints over the last 4 years that we've done the pilot program. We kind of have who our regulars are, so it's been about 20 per year. Last year, I think it was only 5, or whatever number we put in there. Was it 5? Yeah, but last year's, 2020 is not a good measure for anything, I don't think. So, but the previous 2 years, we had 21 and 20, and we pretty much have, they all kind of know what the deal is at this point. And frankly, the only difference from what we've been doing to what this language has is that we would now charge them a fee for the temporary use, and that would be the only thing. Because it was a pilot program, we were not charging them any kind of a fee. What we do as part of that permit, we're just trying to take care of the staff time that we have in it. Staff time from my department is minimal. We're just looking at what they submit us for the permit application. And fire's time is very minimal. They go out where the site is, where the truck is going to be. They do a quick inspection on the truck, make sure that everything's good, make sure they meet the minimum distances and separations from everything that's included with the items that are in there, and they're good to go. So this, again, would be location-based. We have one, for example, homemakers, that they will be there several weekends throughout the year. And it's just going to vary by who the food truck operator is in terms of where they're going to want to go. But it would be location-based, and we would issue a permit for each of those locations with permission from the property owner, the fire inspection, and so forth. The only other thing I would mention is you probably saw in the P&Z minutes, there is a provision in the language, which I think is section E7, which is fairly common in the other cities, to make sure that if a truck is going to be located somewhere, that they would be at least 100 feet away from any other restaurants or business. So if they're in a strip center or something, Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to recommend that that be 200 feet. And you'll note that that section reads, no mobile food unit may operate within 200 feet of a permanent restaurant or business offering food or beverage unless they receive express written consent from the restaurant or business owner. So it is possible to be closer than the 200, but without that permission, P&Z wanted to suggest that maybe that should be 200 feet instead of 100 feet. With that, I think I will just see if you have any questions. Again, we feel like this has been fairly successful for the number that we have, and this will just kind of keep everything the same. The only difference is we'll charge them a fee for a temporary use permit, which is $35.
And so I guess on this program then, it's site-based, so like Homemakers gets the permit and they could have 10 different vendors come through there, or is it vendor-based per site?
It's a vendor-based per site.
So if Homemakers has different vendors each time,
Yep.
They're paying a $30 permit every
Yep.
time.
If Homemakers shows us that they've given permission for 3 or 4 different ones to be there, that's fine. If they just want one, based on whatever they're doing, that's why we feel like the owner permission is so important. If they want to have more than one, they certainly can. We just need that owner permission for each one. So it's per vendor, per site. which is how we've been doing it.
See, this is Dave Russell. I see section F1 provides that a state health inspection certificate. Is that something that we just let the state or the Polk County Health Department, that's their responsibility to inspect it for cleanliness and wholesomeness, et cetera, and we don't get involved in it other than just to assure that they have a current permit?
Correct. And I believe that's one of the things that the fire department inspection involves, is to make sure that they've got that, along with the fire extinguishers and other types of things that they would require.
Do you know the extent of what the health inspection requires? Do they come out and look at the location? Do they look at the, how the food's prepared?
They don't.
I'm just thinking about.
Yeah, I know that they do not come out and look at the location. I would assume, and I don't know, Dave, we didn't get real deep into the weeds about what the county requires. Most of these folks, this is what they do, so they're pretty well up to speed and they know what they want to get. I would assume they're going to be looking at the types of cooking that they're going to do, the apparatuses that they're used for the cooking and those types of things. But yeah, we really didn't get into what the county requires.
So this only is for private events?
Correct.
Do you guys still do the same inspections for the ones on like park property, but we just aren't charging?
Yeah, we met with staff and we thought, the ones on private property are pretty consistent. The ones that might happen in parks can be all over the place. And so we thought, those types of requests need to go directly to parks and let parks kind of analyze where it is, what it is, how many there are, and let them figure out what Parks and Rec Commission and you might want to approve for a given event if it happens on public property.
Okay, and then I got into a little neighborhood issue last spring. And so the block parties would still be dealt with via the police department.
Correct. And police, we met with them too when we were talking internally with staff, and they felt that was the most straightforward way for them to continue to handle those.
Okay. So I think I got more confused by reading the Plan and Zoning Commission meetings about this. They had a very good discussion on this, but.
It was long, yes. Very thorough.
I've been there. So the 100 feet versus the 200 feet I know I was talking to AJ about this earlier today, like this chamber was involved in these discussions early on.
Yep.
And I'm assuming food truck operators were involved as well.
They were.
So I'm a little, I guess I don't have an opinion either way, but to change it to 200 without talking to either the business community or the food truck community is a little uneasy for me. I don't know if the rest of you feel that way, but if that was what we were pushing out to the parties that are impacted, and we're not telling them that we're changing it.
I did talk to Tiffany Menke late last week, made her aware that this was going to be on, and asked her if she would share it with any of her members that she thought might like to see it. Have not heard from anybody. There may be somebody on tonight, not aware of anybody that would like to speak. The other thing I would tell you is that two more things. One is 100 feet or 200 feet is very common in all of the different ordinances that we've looked at, both around the metro and around the country. Seems like it's either 100 or 200 feet. A lot of them are 100 feet. The last thing I would mention is that for our two most popular locations, which tend to be Homemakers and Aurora Business Park, there isn't a restaurant within,
Right.
there are no other restaurants.
Right.
So far, we have not had any issues with that being a problem. My own personal opinion, 200 feet is probably still not unreasonable. I think if you get to 300 feet, which is a football field, then maybe that's too far. But again, 100 foot and 200 foot are very common in other ordinances throughout other cities. And again, they can be closer than that. They just have to have the permission.
Okay. Well, thanks for all that research that you guys have done over the years.
It's a moving target.
Yes. Well, I think that it adds a lot of value to the community. I mean, it's what people want right now. And whether it's the business parks over lunch or homemakers, or I'd love to see them pop up other places. I think it's great when we have them in the parks. So I think it's meeting a need of what people want for entertainment and food right now. So I'm glad we're finally making this permanent.
Yep. And frankly, our hope is that once we get back to normal after COVID, maybe we'll see those numbers even tick up a little bit. So.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with Bridget that I think we ought to leave it at 100 feet because that's what everybody did. If it's a problem, we can always change it later. And,
Absolutely.
But you know, in Urbandale, you start thinking about it and we don't have that many restaurants we have to avoid, unfortunately,
Yeah.
so.
I guess for me, it's one other thing too is the hours operation. I think back in November, we talked about this of most restaurants go till 10 and we're having them stop at 9. So middle of the summer, they're closed before sunsets. Is that, that was, I guess, something is to match when other restaurants could also go to at night, time-wise.
Yeah, and we certainly, if you'd want to extend the hours, that's fine. Again, we have to have permission of the property owner, so
Right.
they're going to know what's happening.
Right.
I would be supportive of extending
Just
hours.
matching other hour.
I missed that
requirements.
in the discussion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Matter of fact, most food trucks I've seen are outside the bars at much later than 9. So.
What are you doing up that late?
I've heard that.
Oh.
Right, yeah. Popular Euro stands are open at 2 a.m., so.
Culinary
But
delight.
that's 25 years ago, that's past
Oh,
history.
I think they're still there.
I think it might still be there.
Yeah, I'm fine with 10 o'clock and I'm fine if we want to change the fee back to 100. I agree. I don't know that we've been having them at one of our business parks for probably 10 years. And I hard to imagine a situation where 100 or 200 is going to make too much of a difference where we have Urbandale restaurants. But, if we'd have a restaurant that would go in, that would create that, I'd be fine with 100. My only question, Steve, was do you foresee, are there enough frequency of the food trucks that we have somebody that's going to get hit with having to do the permit and the fee 5 or 6 times because they've got different locations around Urbandale? Or do you see that being, do you think it'll be an issue or not?
It hasn't been so far. And again, that's something we can come back and change if we find that that's becoming a problem. One of the things that surprised us as we looked at other metro cities is, well, it varied, but some of them might have like a fee that's $50 for 3 months worth or something. And then several of them, and I don't remember which one's which at this point, but some of them have annual permits, but they're $250, $300. So even if they wanted to do 4 or 5, 6 locations, they're still going to be less than some of the other metro cities are charging. That's certainly something we can track, and if things pick up a little bit, that's certainly something we can come back and discuss.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. I think they probably bounce around enough. It's something we can look at into the future, but
yeah.
No, I appreciate the due diligence on this. This has been a fun project to get to watch come together. And my only thought was on the city website, we might call it food trucks as opposed not to confuse people filing for a mobile food unit permit.
Right.
And not knowing what they're applying for. But no, I think it's great. I'm excited to see it. Like I said, it's been something that we've seen for a long time in Urbandale. So thanks, Steve. Yeah.
Are you guys getting the proper permits?
I believe, I mean, at least since we've been.
Because it's been a pilot program, we haven't been issuing permits.
There's no enforcement, yeah.
So
I do think, I mean, I have seen maps of where they're gonna go.
Yeah.
And I know we've been requested of permission, as landowner permission, so.
Right.
I know at least some of it's.
we actually, and again, frankly, our 2 biggest locations have been Homemakers and Aurora Business Park. And I know Homemakers and probably Aurora Business Park as well. I mean, they have a person that they're the ones that calls and deals with all this. They'll call Christie and, okay, it's time, here's the dates we want, and they just take care of it. I mean, they pretty much know the drill at this point.
We actually sent out a calendar with who's gonna be there when.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's kind of why we like this, because we're just going to continue doing what we've been doing, and the trucks that are doing it seem to pretty much know the drill, and it seems to be working because we have not heard complaints from them.
And then speed of turning around a permit. So if I beautiful day, 8 o'clock this morning. Could I get one for lunch today?
Potentially, it's going to depend on when fire can get out there and do it, but I would venture to say, I could check with Christie and see, but I bet the overwhelming majority of the ones that we've been doing, we haven't been issuing a permit, that really won't add much to it. We're still scheduling that fire inspection. I bet they could be turned around same day or the next day.
So did you and your staff have to visit all these different food stands and partake?
That's one side of the research that we really lacked in. We did not do that.
All right, we are still in public hearing on this item. Is there anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Poggi,
Second.
second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. All right, then somebody want to offer up something? I don't know if there's a consensus on the changes that you were discussing, but.
I'd move council letters 6668 with the changes to allow them to be open until 10 PM and reducing the distance from local restaurants back down to 100 feet.
All right, motion by Caduce.
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Any further discussion? Not, please vote.
I'm thinking it might be.
Sorry, Nicole, I should have checked. You're okay with those, typing those changes in? You got that done? Oh, wow. Got it there. All right. That passes. Thank you. Item 6.7 is a public hearing to consider the Timberline Village amendment to the Plan Unit Development Master Plan at 142nd Street and Douglas Parkway. And the public notice for this was published. Where did I put it? Hang on, there it is. The March 12, 2021 Des Moines Register, and ask for any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Motion by Poggi. Second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. Okay, Steve?
Aaron is checking out batteries. Nicole, what are our options at this point about how to put things on the screen? Either the batteries that we put in here really aren't all that juiced, or we might have a mouse problem, because the green light will come on and then I cannot get it on the screen to try to X out and go to share the screen. Is there any way you can get to them? We can.
Here's my house. Can you plug this in?
Yeah, we should be able to.
Right down there, maybe?
Yep.
And then we'll shut this one off,
They have to sync them up.
and that should do the trick. I like the press of that.
Okay, let's see if Aaron saved the day here. There we go. Come on, I saw it. It looks like it's. Okay, it says the device is ready. I'm seeing it, but it doesn't want to stay. Are you used to this mouse?
It's doing something funny. This one, where's this one plugged in?
That I do not know. Unless it's in the back there.
Is it behind the monitor?
It could be.
I'm just wanting to share the document from the council letter.
This would be this would be, well, we could do it that way, potentially. See, watch this.
There's interference because there's more than one mouse.
Yeah, we're thinking there's some interference somehow from something.
Bear with us, folks. We have a little technical difficulty here. So.
Yeah.
All right, give me those batteries.
Yeah. Try new batteries in there again.
I want to unplug
Yep, I'll take this one out.
There we go.
Okay, we're gonna at least get through a couple more items here. Okay, so what I want to do is present this particular item and the first P and Z item, 7.1, which is the Eden Crest at Timberline preliminary plat and site plan. I think it's gonna make more sense if I show you both of these together because they are directly related to each other. The reason we need the PUD amendment is because of this site plan. So with that said, this is the site plan for, actually, let me back up since I'm gonna do these together. So this is the site plan and a preliminary plat together, which is gonna create the need for the PUD amendment. What you see on the screen is the northeast corner of the roundabout, not the lot that's right on the corner, but the lot that is to the east, which is gonna be Outlot V. It's about 7.1 acres. And what is proposed is a senior living facility. It's an 80-unit facility that has 4 different wings. And so these 2 southern wings, so here's Douglas, you've got 2 southern wings down here. This is a 3-story building, this is a 2-story building. And then this is a common area in the middle that shares dining and some other community functions. And then you've got 2 wings up here to the north that are 1-story. So the 2 northern wings each are gonna contain 20 units. It'll be 10 per building or 10 per floor, and those are single stories. The southwestern wing, which would be this wing here, is gonna be 2 stories. It'll have 16 units with 8 per floor. And then this particular building here is gonna be 3 stories, 24 units, so 8 units per floor. The overall building footprint is about 46,000 square feet. The total square footage is gonna be about 89,000 square feet. And then there are 2 garage buildings that they're providing. Up here to the north, there are about 61 surface parking spaces, and you can see those here. And then there are 2 garage units, which together will have another 20 parking spaces involved with those. As far as the PUD is concerned, what the PUD wants to call for is to have build 2 lines. So that's getting the building right up on the sidewalk so that we can establish that storefront type of environment. Because of the size of this building, needing to keep the elevation the same, the size of the building, and the fact that there is a right turn lane, you can see that right turn lane here, which is then gonna result in having to relocate our trail to the north. They just weren't able to get up to the building and be able to do that. So the 3 components of the amendment are to increase that. We wanted that setback when we wrote the PUD to be 20 to 30 feet. We need to increase that to 45 feet so they can get up the hill and get to the building. But the presence of the building, I think, will still somewhat create that storefront type of setting that we were looking for. The PUD says that the predominant building material should be brick. Because this is an all residential building, what we suggested that if they could do it, would be to show us 30% brick on the outside, and here's the elevations for what this will look like. This bottom elevation here is what you would see from Douglas. So Douglas would be in front of what you see here. So they're showing at least 30% brick and a mixture of different materials that you can see there. So that would be the second component of the amendment. And then the third component of the amendment is in typical multifamily housing, we base the number of parking spaces based on the number of bedrooms for each unit. Well, again, because this is a senior living facility, this is their 7th actually that they're doing in the metro area. So Hubble kind of has this down in terms of how they need to operate. And obviously there's going to be a lot of residents in the memory care unit and the assisted living care unit, which just simply don't drive. They are finding that the people that live in the independent units are younger. This is all 55 plus, but they're coming in younger and they do still drive. And so this is the second project where they have provided some covered garage spaces. Most of them, the other 5, only have surface parking spaces. So you saw the discussion with that, I think, in the P&Z minutes. And then if I go back, the last thing I would just touch on is that this is a preliminary plat as well as a site plan. And so what they're proposing or creating is a lot on which the building will be constructed. And then immediately to the east, as you get up into those large oak trees, they're creating an outlot, and an outlot is a non-buildable lot. There's nothing you could ever do in there anyway because of the slope in the trees. So they're just gonna carve off part of this to be a non-buildable outlot and have what's being built part of what's on the buildable lot. Last thing I would mention is you can see the sidewalks and the trails that they're providing around the property. There will be a trail that connects down here to Douglas that goes behind the property, behind the buildings, and goes back up to the north, and then ties in with a trail that's part of the apartments to the north that comes down through this area and ties in and then goes over. We've got a site plan coming up for a daycare to be located immediately across 141st Street, so we'll get to that here a little bit later. And then you can see the sidewalks down here to the south, which gets you from Douglas up into the property. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I believe I saw that Chris Sidoris with Hubble. Yep, Chris is on the call and could certainly get in more into the weeds on this to whatever questions you would like to ask, and I'd be happy to answer questions as well. So again, this is for the PUD amendment that this site plan creates. So though you can take all the motions separately, obviously, but this would be for the PUD amendment, the site plan, and the preliminary plat. Any questions for me or for Chris?
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions?
Well, I'll just say I'm super excited to see development on this intersection, and also to see senior housing coming to Urbandale. We've identified that as a need, and I am happy to see Hubble also sees it as a viable option for our community. My question, though, is about the, can you scroll back to the elevation drawings?
Yep.
Because there's so much housing with the apartments, and I think there's townhouses and also some single family that kind of arc around that. Is everybody gonna have a nice, is it gonna look good to the people that live in those properties to the north and east that come around?
This would be the north elevation, so those folks that are in the townhomes and the apartments to the north, this is what they would see as they would look to the south. So don't know to what extent that answers your questions, but you know, in my opinion, I think it's a nice looking building. They do.
Is the bottom color, is that brick there?
That is correct.
And then what about, I see some what look like single family homes going kind of east, in the northeast part of there?
Curves around
Yeah.
to the north, yep.
What would those folks be looking at?
They're gonna be a little bit kind of over to the side, but essentially they're gonna be still looking at the same thing. Yeah, it's, and then this is kind of what you would see as you would pull into the property and you would look back toward the east. So this is gonna be the front door, and there's that the 2-story building, and then the 3-story back behind it. And then the other end of things, as you look to the east, here's the backside. So to the extent that those single-family homes that you're talking about are kind of off a little bit, they're gonna see there's the 3-story building, and then there's the common area that connects all of the buildings. So, we stressed, and they were very receptive to having this be what we call four-sided architecture.
Yes.
So you're using all of the same materials all the way around. And I, my opinion, yes, I think it's gonna look very nice on all four sides.
What is the material? It looks like it's different on that entryway.
Chris, you wanna run through, or whoever you've got on with you, kind of what some of these materials are?
Yeah, I've got, obviously our architect and engineer partners are on it, and Jeff Portman, who's our architect, I'll let him speak to these just because he can be specific to what's there. And my internet connection here in Ankeny is somewhat up and down tonight with the storm, so I'll see if he's better in Cedar Rapids.
It's not a huge, breaking issue, but it just looks like it's a different material.
I'm trying to zoom in a little bit here because these are called out, so let's see if that helps.
Oh, and maybe Jeff's been wiped out too by the storm, so.
Wood brackets?
Yeah.
So yeah, cement board siding is going to be what this color is. You do have the brick at the bottom. They've got some different colors of the cement board siding and the shingle profiles. And then I'll go down here. This is the front entrance as you would turn north and go to where the front entrance would be. So they've got a pre-finished aluminum storefront. They've got a stone veneer here on the front. To kind of make that look nice, since that is the main entryway. And then you've got a mixture of the brick and the hardy plank on the side, and then of course lots of glass. And then as you get down to what you would see on Douglas, which is probably the biggest presence, there you go. And then there's a rendering as well. And so all of this darker color obviously is the brick. And then you can see the porches, and then that common area kind of anchors the two buildings in between. So this would be Douglas. So this is what you would see as you come along Douglas. And I think to partly answer your question, you can see the building back behind, you can see that same brick, so that's going to be kind of a backside, quote unquote. So I think they did a really nice job with the four-sided architecture here.
Oh, I think that looks great, and I love this view coming down Douglas. And
then here's some additional details for you, just in terms of, brick at the bottom and the hardy plank on the top, and some of the architectural details they've got there with the gables. And then here's just kind of an aerial photo. So Douglas would be down here, and you would pull in and go north and come in here, and that main entrance is going to be right over here. So you've got the building kind of wrapping around either side of the main entrance, and then these are those two garage buildings that are up on the north end. Let me zoom out a little bit and make sure you're seeing all of that. There we go. So again, this would be Douglas, the 3-story building, the 2-story building. You come up and pull in here. They did provide, again, that sidewalk connection here from Douglas, and then there's the trail that goes all the way back behind, and then there's those two north units that are the memory care, and you can see that they've got that same brick and hardy plank there, and then here's a canopy over the main entrance. Anything you would want to add, Chris? And then here's some additional details. You can see the canopy at the main entrance and that stone that they're going to use, and then all the windows and the common area that connect all the buildings together. And then this is that back view, Bridget, that you were asking about. So here's the trail that comes up back along behind and goes over. This is the new 141st Street that's going to come in. And so those existing homes are going to be kind of looking at this right here. So again, you can see that same brick, that hardy plank, the architectural elements. They will have some enclosed areas for the memory care, just as part of what the care requirements are for those particular residents with the gables. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best view there, Steve, where you were. And I was glad to see that you got to that elevation, because it is more of a stone at the entrance. And that's this is a much better view, obviously, than the elevations are. This can kind of give you a better sense, but we really kind of try and create a sense of arrival there. And so that's why you see a little different, the stone there as opposed to the brick that's predominant on the balance of the building.
None of the drawings show any brick or anything on the garages. Would those have any sort of detail on their siding?
Chris, I will defer to you on that. I don't know if you've figured that out yet at this point, or what would you say?
We haven't included it at this point because they're interior to the site. We tried to be very thoughtful, and I want to thank both Steve and Christy for the work that they did with us, because of the fact that we wanted to make sure that we included that, so we had as much of that as we can. We certainly can, if there's a concern on the north, add it there, but we tried to be, thoughtful on the building itself and really pay a lot of attention to the detail along Douglas itself, and especially that southeast corner, because we knew that was what most folks would see if they were westbound on Douglas. And so we really kind of worked hard to spend the time down there, but we certainly could add some detailing to the lower part of the north garage building if that's a concern.
Yeah, I'd just like to see some sort of, element that is more than just a garage, for those folks that live in the apartment, whether it's just like a half, a stone thing at the middle.
Yeah, we would probably
I'm not good at words when it comes to these things, but some sort of detail, not nearly to the extent of the rest of the building, but just not just, prefab.
Sure.
Because we have a lot of long-term residents for this part of town that live in those apartments and condos and up there.
Okay. Yep. And my architect is texting me that his connection is allowing him to speak if you can't hear him. So if council would be willing to let us work through with staff, we can certainly agree that we can work to something that we think addresses your concern as you've noted it.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? So procedurally, we are in a public hearing now for the amendment to the PUD, so I'm going to open it up for any further comments from the public. Is there anyone else like to address the council on the PUD amendment? Okay, hearing none, then I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
A motion by Caduce.
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion. Please vote. Okay, that passes. And ask for a motion and second on the item.
I'd move approval of Council Letter 6673.
Motion by Pogge.
Second.
Second by Caduce. Discussion. Please vote. Okay, that passes. And then moving on to item 7.1 is the Eden Crest to Timberline preliminary plat and site plan. And if there's any other comments?
Nothing more to add unless you have questions.
I'd move approval of Council Letter 6674.
Motion by Pogge.
Second.
Second by Caduce. Discussion. Please vote. Okay, that passes. Moving on to item 7.2, that's the Timberline Village PUD Plat 3 preliminary plat at 142nd Street and Douglas Parkway.
Okay.
Before we get to that, I just want to say, Chris, thank you for, just wanted to say thanks again. I echo what Bridget said on bringing a new product to Urbandale. I think it's going to be a long overdue product, so thanks for finding a home there, so. Look forward to it. All right, sorry, Steve.
No problem. I agree. Okay, going to do the same thing here with 7.2, which is the Timberline Village Plat 3 preliminary plat, 7.3, which is the regional detention basin that's part of that plat, and the Kitty Academy at Timberline Village site plan. Again, these are all three directly related to each other, so I think it's going to make more sense if I just present all of these at the same time. So I think we are in luck here with the mouse. It seems to be cooperating at the moment. So let's see here. Okay, so again, we've got three things in one here. We've got a preliminary plat, which is going to create two parcels. One is going to be this parcel that you see here on which the Kitty Academy daycare is proposed to be constructed. And then the rest of all this for now is going to be platted as an outlot. With future development to come, you can see some conceptual rectangles for future buildings that NAP is hoping to be able to construct in the future, one on the 142nd Street frontage and one on the Douglas frontage. And then also part of that is a regional detention basin, which will provide detention for this entire corner. So let's talk about the daycare here just briefly. This is a single-story building located here on a parcel to be created that is 1.55 acres in size. It's about 13,000 square feet. And then just to the north of the building, so this is the building here, this south rectangle. And then to the north of the building is an area that's about just shy of 12,000 square feet, which is going to be an outdoor play area and open field for the kids that will be at the daycare. This is 141st Street, which will be a private street coming off of Douglas. The senior living project that we just talked about is immediately on the other side, on the east side of 141st, so this would be directly across that private drive. And then you've got the existing Ridgemont Drive here to the north, so it will tie in there. That will tie Ridgemont down to Douglas, and then you can come off of 142nd Street on the existing street and then be able to access the daycare. So that's the kitty. Let me show you the elevations of the daycare. And so this is the south elevation. So as you turn in and go north, this is what you would see as the front entrance to the daycare. Again, this is a predominantly brick building, so it does meet the requirements of the PUD. And then this would be the backside of the building. So this is what the apartments and the houses to the north would see, lots of glass, obviously. And then they've got this vertical element that's part of the architecture. And then in the foreground is where that outdoor play area is. So those folks, as they look south toward the building, when the kids are outside playing in this area, this is where they would be, and then the building would be back behind. And then you can see what each of the two side elevations entail. As far as the detention basin, let me kind of explain what they're doing here. This is an opportunity to get all of the detention basin for this whole corner in one spot. And so what NAP is doing, we've had several meetings on this corner trying to get to what our goal was originally of the PUD, just to have some mixed uses and some retail uses in there. I think it's a very interesting and kind of a good juxtaposition to have senior living right next to a daycare. I think that's kind of cool on some level. And then we're working toward some sort of retail and or office uses here. So what is shown is as you would come down Douglas and turn and go up 142nd Street, this is your classic, hole in the ground detention basin. It's going to be a wet basin, so it has the opportunity to be a water feature. So as you're driving along the street, it's going to berm up just a little bit and then go down into the basin. So you may or may not be able to see a little bit of water in here. Of course, if they have a fountain, that would shoot the water up certain times of the year, and you might be able to see that. If you've driven that corner, you know that the grade really goes uphill pretty steeply, and that's what they had to account for in this basin. So the discussion about the wall in the P&Z minutes, if you see this dark line right here, this is a fairly significant wall that they're proposing that will allow them, when NAP is ready to get something going on the corners, so this is going to be very low in the basin, and this big wall is going to be back behind it. And then at the top of that wall is going to be where this building, this parking, and these plaza open areas are going to be able to meet the goals of what the PUD. And again, this PUD has a lot of language in there about pedestrian accessibility, a pedestrian feel, outdoor seating areas, plazas, trying to be able to put a pedestrian emphasis on this development. And so NAP is trying to think about that, to be able to have an area here outside of the building where you might be able to have some seating, plaza, patio type of situation, be able to walk along here, and then also have the same thing at the end of this building. So at the top of the wall, all of this would essentially be level here. There would be the wall, and then you drop down the other side of the wall into the detention basin. Obviously, at the time that we construct this, we would make sure that there are appropriate railings and fencing and all of that type of thing that would go without saying. What P&Z just wanted to communicate to the owner was give some thought as to what this wall looks like. So, having a 9 or 10 foot wall there in and of itself isn't necessarily a problem. I think P&Z's message was, we don't want to just see this gray concrete wall. What type of, some sort of application on the front of that wall? Could it be stucco? Could it be some brick? Could it be a mixture of materials? Whatever that is. And they requested that come back to them so that they can see it and make a recommendation to you before we would issue a building permit. So That's the 30,000-foot view. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I obviously have questions. Again, very excited to see development here after, many, many years of driving by these vacant intersections. I'm concerned about the others. I'm also concerned about the wall, but what's this going to look like on the trail side of, and is that a safety issue?
The basin itself, you mean?
Yes.
Don't think it would be. We certainly have situations where we do have detention basins next to trails. It's not going to, be this great big deep hole. It's going to have water in it. There is landscaping that's also going to be required along here. So the landscaping is certainly going to soften what you see. So I don't have any concerns as staff that this is something that's all that different from what we have in a lot of other situations. The biggest concern is probably as you're standing on the street and you might see some water, that you've got this wall, and then up at the top of that wall, you're going to have these buildings and everything going on there. So I think that the goal here, I think, is going to be to try to use some materials on the wall so that the wall doesn't really stand out, so that the wall just kind of gets incorporated into all the other views. And again, there will be landscaping required down here. We might even be able to do something at the base of the wall. I think there's things that we can soften, ways that we can soften what that wall looks like. Eric, are you on? Anything else that you want to add to what you guys are thinking about on this wall?
Yeah, I am. Eric Cannon, Snyder & Associates here, 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard. So yeah, I know there was a lot of discussion at P&Z on this relative to what that'll look like. We are getting with Simonson, who's the architect on this project, as well as Knapp, to discuss the form liners, all those kind of options. We are going to, have some extensive foundation plantings at the base of the wall there. I think between the landscape material and the buffer along the street and the trail side, the look of a wet bottom pond versus a dry basin, I think will look a lot better too. And then between the landscaping and then, whatever form liner we end up using on that wall, I think it'll make it a feature. Obviously, Knapp doesn't want this to look not attractive either. They've got a lot of interest here. This is a hard corner for them. They don't have commitments on the other parcels, those other building pads that Steve mentioned earlier yet either. So last thing they want to do is kind of shoot themselves in the foot here and not have something that's attractive and welcoming and inviting to this corner here for their future development purposes. So we're definitely on board working with staff here, getting some renderings pulled together. We've got a kind of a coordination meeting with Simonson coming up to kind of go through those details and looking forward to working with everybody to make sure this works for everybody involved.
I guess on this, with the wall, is there any connection that we could have with the art committee and potentially, we have a really nice mosaic a mile and a half north of this? I don't know if there's a way to, this might end up being a public art item feature.
We actually brought that up to them, that as they think through what they might want to do, that we certainly be open to, see what they would want to propose and bring that to the appropriate folks to consider.
I think that's a fantastic idea, Adam. I was thinking about that. So, Eric, so you think there's going to be a water feature, a fountain or something ultimately?
I don't know exactly what will be in there, and again, that's something we need to work through with the owner. But they're going to want to make sure that there's aeration to the water and all those kind of things. So it's not a huge pond. So that's the other thing is it doesn't have a giant footprint to it. So I think those are details we'll need to work through with Knapp as we kind of get this finalized and developed. But again, they'll have interest to make sure that the water is healthy and that it's not a mucky, mossy area. So.
Well, I'm just concerned because it's the corner is the focus that everybody sees as they go about the roundabout. You guys are the engineers and landowners and know what's best for the property, but I would have preferred to see building, on those, on the corner. But if that's not the what's appropriate for the site, I fully understand that. And will this get built right away to go with the Eden Crest and the Kitty Academy?
Yes, it will. So we have.
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Steve. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it is. So we've submitted it as part of the plans. We've submitted the initial set of structural drawings on the wall. Those were all part of the city review comments. So this will provide the stormwater management for this parcel. Edencrest is actually providing their own on-site with a basin, but it does kind of route through here. This is the bottom of the world for this whole corner here, including all the development to the north as well. So that's the challenge from a drainage standpoint. I think Knapp obviously would like to take advantage of the corner a little bit better as well from a building standpoint, but water flows downhill, and so that's kind of where we're at with it.
That's a technical engineering term, the bottom of the world, just FYI. But
Well, just to reiterate what Adam said, I would love to see this as a mural destination for Urbandale. I mean, if we have this huge wall, there's so many pictures I see every day of people taking pictures downtown or in Ankeny and their new development up there. I think it'd be super cool if we could get some sort of Urbandale mural there. If we have this blank canvas, I'd be very open to that down the road.
there's definitely opportunities, and what you may want to consider is, while Knapp tries to figure out what tenants are going to happen and what these buildings are going to look like, there may be a way to kind of tie all these together architecturally with some materials that are on the wall that are also part of those buildings. At a minimum, you are going to see, so this is getting platted as an outlot. Again, all of this is going to be an outlot, which means it's not buildable. So they will need to come back through with a final plat and with a site plan for these buildings. And so I think it's just a matter of, does the owner think through what some possibilities could be now that they would want to do now to this wall? Or certainly no later than the time of the site plan, when this came back to you, we could tie, what that needs to look like. So, but I think Knapp needs a little bit of time to kind of consider what the options are and what they would want to do with that wall. Either way, we can certainly get it back to you so that you can take a look at it and consider what some of those options might be. They did, Bridget, to answer your question, the original intent was to have a building on the corner. But as they started working through the actual engineering of getting this done, as Eric mentioned, they determined that's where they need to have the detention, and that is the bottom of the world, so that's where it needed to be.
Steve, why is 141st going to be private?
At this point, just because, we build private streets to all the same standards as public streets. But at this point, they're just, John, I don't remember, I don't know if you recall, if you're still on, what some of the discussion was about how to do that, but I don't think we actually thought it needed to be a public street. It's almost more of a private drive. How it will actually function is more of a private drive, and we always try to give private drives names too, just so people can find it.
Well, that was my next question. Does it intersect with anything further north, or is it just going to stop at the parking?
It does. So here's Douglas. This will come off of Douglas, go north, and tie into the existing Ridgemont Drive that's to the north.
Okay.
Yep. So when people are coming in here, you can turn and go north and access the apartments and the townhomes that are up there. And so this will just provide that connection through there.
Well, with commercial properties all around, I'm not as concerned as I am with residential, but.
Right.
When they don't plow it on time, expect to get the calls that the city skipped it,
Yeah, agreed. I think with Edencrest, with Hubble operating that, and that's part of what we talked about, is just access agreements to have Kitty Academy and Edencrest on the same page for how that gets handled, yes.
I guess, Steve, this is John. Since you'd asked the question, the only other thing I would add is like Ridgemont Drive and to the north, those are private streets as well.
Right.
So it's kind of in a private area.
Okay.
Further?
Nobody has anything to say. I'll move approval of Council Letter 6669.
Okay, motion by Bogie.
I second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Second by Carver.
I was so quick on it.
Oh, motion by Bogie, second by Carver.
So excited.
Discussion, please vote. I did not hear that. All right, that passes.
We can only hope.
Then item 7.2, again, is Timberline Village PUD Plat 3 preliminary plat, and nothing further to add. I'll ask for a motion in a second.
I would move Council Letter 6670, as long as it's a pretty wall.
Motion by Bogie,
I'll second. Oh,
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.3, the Timberline Village PUD Plat 3 Regional Detention Site Plan.
Mr. Mayor, I think we just did that one.
Yep.
I'm tracking the council.
No, didn't
members,
we?
right?
So we're on.
You're right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're at
I'm
7.4.
one behind now.
Now we're the site plan.
I'm one behind. All right, so 7.4 is the Kitty Academy at Timberline Village Site Plan.
I would move
Council letter
approval of
6671.
Council Letter 6671.
Second.
Motion by Pogge, second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
I'm at a sheet metal wall.
All right, thank you, that passes. All right, item 7.5 then is the machine shed Plat 2 preliminary and final plat at Hickman Road and 111th Street. Steve?
There we go. Okay, I am pleased to tell you this is my last item, and you can stop looking at my face here. This is just a resubmittal of our preliminary and final plat that was approved back in 2019, and they have since expired. So they're just coming back through. This is just frankly a cleanup of the three buildings that are there. You've got the machine shed, the Hotel Renovo, and the Revel Hotel. And so there are some really old condo regime that's going to go away in favor of this plat. And what this does is gets all of the buildings and all of the associated parking on the appropriate lots and gets everything platted out the way it needs to be. And then there is one outlot, which is a non-buildable lot for one additional retail building that would be compliant with that PUD should Living History Farms ever decide to do that. They would need to plat it, and then, of course, there would be a site plan that would come to you. But it's really just creating lots 1, 2, and 3 for the hotel, the machine shed, and the other hotel to get everything cleaned up, get the buildings on the right lots, get all the parking done. They were in the process of doing that. They need to work with the Living History Board to be able to get all this done. COVID hit, and it just kind of blew everything up. So they've resubmitted it and going to give it another try to see if we can get it done this time. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer questions.
So the two, I'm just trying to picture this. The two outlots are owned by Living History Farms yet?
This one is, I believe, and then there's an outlot down here where there's a sign, and then there's an outlot down here, which is Heart of America. Yep.
Okay.
And then lot 1 is the Revel, lot 2 is Machine Shed, and lot 3 is Renovo. Yep.
All right.
Motion to approve Council Letter 6672.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. All right, thank you. We don't mind seeing you up here, Steve, because that means things are getting built and done. And
Last meeting it was John, and the meeting before that was John. This time it was my turn.
No.
And, but a lot going on, obviously.
A lot of good projects.
Absolutely.
That's great. So thank you. Item 8.1 is consideration of the bids for the 2021 traffic signal maintenance. John?
I was gonna bring a mouse with a cord.
not necessarily a good one. She's
this time. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This is our 2021 traffic signal maintenance bid tabulation. It was back on March 3rd. There we go. Get the microphone on. It was on March 3rd that we took bids on the project. Due to the issue with publishing on the budget, we delayed that to this meeting. But at that time, we received 4 bids on the project. And we're recommending the low bid from Iowa Signal, including alternate number 1, in the amount of $75,155. Their low bid is $5,650, or 7% less than the engineer's estimate of just under $81,000. And with this project, we'd be doing some modifications to the traffic signal cabinet at 83rd Street and Douglas Avenue. We'd be replacing some of our older cameras. We'll be doing some work on some pedestrian push buttons. We'd replace some traffic loops, and then also adding some tracer wire into a conduit. Both of the alternates that we had on the project, make sure we stayed within budget, replace some additional cameras, and we're anticipating we'd have this work completed by November 1st. And you see the black dots are just where the different improvements are at between the many different things that we're doing for maintenance. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Beyond budget, was there any other reason why you didn't do alternate 2?
Just keep it within budget, yep. Okay. So we have that $75,000 annually, so we try to stay within that. So we'll look to do some more improvements next year.
Okay. Any further questions?
I guess why I ask is we've just had such good savings on some other projects across our budget cycle and CIP stuff. Is this a time to?
The only thing with this is road use money, so it's a little different pot of money than the other ones.
Okay. Motion to approve, Council Order 6647.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. Great, thank you, that passes. We have now a series of collective bargaining agreements. I'm gonna let Aaron get up here. So first of all, item 8.2 is to consider the collective bargaining agreement with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters number 238, our police. So, and to introduce this is our HR Director on Freeman, Aaron.
Thank you. So tonight I'll be talking to you about items 8.2 through 8.4, the collective bargaining agreements for police, fire, and laborers. All those contracts currently expire June 30th of 2021 this year. We, over the last couple of months, the negotiation team, which included representatives from all the different departments and our labor council and myself, negotiated during the months of January and February, and were successful in getting tentative agreements with all 3 unions, which is something that we always try to achieve without going to mediation or arbitration. So we were really happy about that. For the most part, pretty consistent with what we negotiated with all the different units. The noteworthy provisions are they're all 3-year contracts. They all have some sort of wage reopeners in years 2 and 3 of the contract just because of budget uncertainty, but a 3% across the board increase for the first year. Also in the fire unit, some additional changes to their wage schedule to help get them up to market, which we had kind of previously talked about. And then adjusting leave accruals for vacation and personal leave to achieve some consistency amongst the different units so that they have a consistent amount of time off between the units. Some were a little bit lower and raised those up. And then in one case, one was just a tad higher, and they agreed to lower that to have that consistency. And then the addition of a signing bonus for certified police officers. So that was something that we'd be able to start offering as early as July 1st. I don't have any fancy presentation for you, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Aaron on this item? All right.
Motion to approve, Council Order 6659.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 8.3 is to consider the collective bargaining agreement with the Des Moines Association of Professional Firefighters. Any further comments or questions?
Move to approve council letter 6660.
Okay, motion by Obrecht, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And finally, item 8.4 is consider the collective bargaining agreement for the construction and public employees, Liuna Local 177.
Move to approve council letter 6661.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Caduce. Discussion, please vote.
I think the lesson of the night is be after Steve and John.
All right, that passes. All right, thank you, Aaron. It's a very good result. Item 8.5 is to consider the professional services agreement for the fire recovery EMS for ambulance billing services, and I believe our fire chief Holt is online. Jerry, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Very good. Mayor, council members, what's for you tonight is to consider an agreement with Fire Recovery EMS LLC for ambulance billing, and just tell you briefly how we got to where we're at. Leslie Osaski, who's been serving the city since 1996, is retiring at the end of May, and she handles all of our billing. And she's handled all of our billing since we started billing in 2000, and we've done that all in-house. When she announced her retirement, the manager felt like this was a good time to look at that position and see if it made sense to outsource that. I'm fully supporting that because I have to serve as the backup, and it's very difficult to do the technical knowledge that's needed to deal with the intricacies of insurance billing. And we just felt like it would be a good move to go out and search for somebody else to do this at this time. There still is a plan to replace Leslie's position, but it will be with a lower level person that's not a billing specialist. So as we started looking at possibilities of outsourcing that billing, we looked at what our neighbors were doing. We looked at what everybody in the state of Iowa was doing, and we put together a team from the city to request information from different vendors. We received 7 vendors that had supplied us information, and from those 7, we picked 4 that would be invited to present proposals for the city. The team then evaluated all of those presentations, and it was unanimous in selecting Fire Recovery EMS as the vendor that we would recommend to you. They had the lowest rate at 4.9%, and the ranges were 4.9% to 6.5%. They had one of the essential things we were really looking for, which was experienced in Iowa and experienced in GMT recovery, which is a big part of our revenue. So they were also highly recommended by our neighbors. They do the billing for Clive, they do the billing for Waukee, and for Johnston and Grimes. The agreement's been reviewed by the city attorney, and he recommended some changes. Those have been included in the agreement, and that is what's been recommended for approval for you tonight. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Jerry, Dave Russell, I sent an email out earlier. The only concern I had was that we are hiring a third-party vendor who is going to be handling medical information for individuals. And of course, that kicks in the HIPAA requirements. And then secondly, they're going to be doing billing and collection. And of course, that kicks in the FDCPA. And I just wanted to make sure, and I asked Bob Layton, just to make sure that we're covered so that if there is an issue with our vendor, if you read the statutes, and I have, we're liable, notwithstanding the language in paragraph 10. So I just wanted to make sure those 2 points are covered and understood. Thanks.
Absolutely. There is a HIPAA requirement. We have to do a HIPAA agreement with any business association that we have. So we already have that in place. That will be required separate of the agreement. The second thing that you mentioned, I'm not aware of what that was, so I'm sure Bob can answer to that.
Good. The main thing was HIPAA, because we will be handling to a third party information, medical information on individuals, and that is covered. Bob Layden, is there anyone else have a comment about either the HIPAA or the EPA?
Dave, this is Bob again. I saw your comment, and with regard to our hold harmless / indemnification language that you referenced, we feel we're covering that issue also.
Okay, good. Just trying to bring those 2 points out.
All right. That's Dave.
I have a question. Chief, I see that this agreement takes place up until a point is made to either send it to collections or write it off. If I recall, we already have an agreement with the collection company to take over at that point if you decide to pursue that. Is that correct?
That is correct, and this agreement does not change that. We will continue to use the company that we are using now.
Okay. And will their fee apply to those that are eventually recovered in collection, or will, once it's sent to collection, do they pass on a fee?
I am not clear on that. I don't know if Nikki can answer that or if not, but I can.
I got the impression from that, so once they release it back to us, if we choose to not use them for further collection, that those would come back to us, and then we will go through our normal municipal collections of Americas who we're using for that. So we can definitely clarify that with them, but that's how once they have attempted to collect it, they're considered to have not collected it, and they turn it back over to us to forward on to our collection. But we'll definitely get a clarification for that, but that's sure how I interpreted that.
Well, it might help because if we're paying both companies a fee, it might make sense to just pass.
Well, the one thing on the company I was going with is we don't pay them a fee unless they collect. Definitely need to clear that up, but they're not getting anything unless they actually collect the money. So I'll double check and make sure we get that clarified.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. With that, any further questions?
I'll move council letter 6663.
Okay, motion by Caduce.
Second.
Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. And that takes us to the end of our regular agenda. So we'll go to council items. David, I'll start with you tonight.
I want to thank Bob Brownell for the report from Polk County, and it sounds like things are getting much better back there, so that's good to hear. He did raise an interesting question. I think I raised it before. It sounds like Polk County is going to get $95 million in stimulus money, and then, of course, a portion will come to Urbandale. And I've asked AJ that when that happens, that we should be able to give a full accounting to our citizens about how much money we received and then how much that money and where it was applied. So just looking forward to that. And I know it's over a period of 24 months, and I know that we're probably several months from even getting any type of an accounting or a number. But when we do, I just feel that it's important that we somehow or another let our taxpayers know this is how much money we received back from the stimulus, and this is where we spent it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's tax dollars like any other dollar, so we will be very transparent as we are with anything else. So
great. And it was exciting to get a bee ordinance passed or discussed and ready to pass at our lunch and learn. So I got a couple of emails from some of the beekeepers who have been monitoring that for the last couple of years.
Yep. That'll be good. All right. Thanks, Dave. Ron?
Nothing other than we'll have a happy.
All right. Thanks. I guess it is our last one. Adam?
I'll second that.
Okay. Adam?
We'll keep the train going and third that.
Bridget?
Of course, I can't just be that easy. So I sent you guys a response to the update about where our MetroNet was, and MediaCom is going nuts out in my area west of 156th Street. So I think there is going to be some hearty competition for internet service, which is long overdue in the community. So whatever role that our actions played, I appreciate that, and I think our citizens very much do as well. I also, in looking at my Facebook memories, had something come up from 2016 around this time of an open house for discussion of an aquatic center in 2016 that we held at the Giovanetti Center. So that was 5 years ago, and that was maybe the second time around that I was involved in this, or maybe that was the first and there was an interim one between now and then. I can't really keep track, but I am eager to move forward to what's next in Urbandale in terms of aquatics and community amenities, and really listen to our community to see what they want from us. And then also, during the meeting, I received an email from DART indicating that their lobbyists, and maybe you guys have heard this already today, and I'm just the last to know, but a bill was filed, an omnibus bill on taxes that would phase out the property tax backfill beginning in FY23 and ending in FY27. This would have a significant impact on DART as we're looking to diversify our funding. I'm sure that it would have a very significant impact on our budget here in Urbandale. But as the things do in the legislature, it appears that a subcommittee bill on the bill is already scheduled for tomorrow morning. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that if you hadn't heard about it. It seems Elizabeth is encouraging the DART commissioners to reach out to our legislators to discuss the implications that it would have for DART, and I'm sure also Urbandale as well.
This was brought to our attention Monday evening at the end of the day. It's a Senate file, I can't remember the name now, but it essentially created a 6-year phase out for the backfill. Previous discussions by the legislature headed anywhere from 3 to 5 years, so it does buy us an additional year, assuming that it passes. Right now, our estimates really would still be about $1 million for the city overall of the backfill that we have. And so previous discussions when backfill was a much more active discussion item in front of the legislature, and one we had from the council, it was roughly anywhere from 33 to 36 cents impact on our levy. And those are based on previous valuations, so I'm sure they've changed, but meaning that if we had to make that up through our own levy, that's what it'd have to be affected. So again, our number overall impact hasn't changed because it was based on a previous number that the legislature used when they made the adjustments in the property tax. But at the same time, for us, if there's a silver lining to any of this dark cloud, it would be that it's a 6-year phase out. So you'd have that type of preparation to either make adjustments, see where the growth is to maybe offset that, or ultimately through the council, the opportunity to adjust the levy rate to account for that.
So basically, any savings that we are trying to give our citizens from our CIP, paying off our CIP, would be erased by having to, or more?
Effectively, yes. Yeah, over that time period. It depends on, again, the valuations and other revenue sources. You know, when the backfill was first discussed, we didn't have the local option sales tax here. And so those funds will be used to, as we've discussed, to buy down the debt. But you're right, when you create that reduction in the debt service, The overall tax rate is what people are concerned with. They really don't differentiate between the debt service and the general fund, et cetera. So, yeah, if we lower it, let's say 35 cents over a time period, and the council determines that they wish to make up that lost revenue through a tax increase, then you could essentially have zero or a zero impact of that levy reduction originally, that you would take it down, but then you would raise it again.
And then we would also have the impacts on the other taxing authorities, DART and the other.
Right.
So
Anybody?
it would be quite a whammy on our constituents there. So I know I'll be reaching out to my state senator and representative who are represent Dallas County tonight, but we'll see how that goes. I guess that was really all I had. And I also just wanted to give a shout out to Derek, if he's still listening, to thank him for his continued efforts on getting the word out on everything. He was very responsive to my requests today to get the word out about the Clive Aquatic Center passes. Those prices go up at the end of the month. Even the residential, Clive residential rates are discounted by 10% until the end of the month. So I wanted to make sure that Urbandale folks had an opportunity to take advantage of those discounted rates, or further discounted rates. So thanks, Derek. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Bridget. Any other bills? AJ, I think that the House passed the 411 bill, and I think that's going to go to the Senate now, but is that?
We're part of, I can't recall, we're part of a joint meeting sometime this week that will be zoomed in. We've shared our concerns with all of our legislative representatives. Thank you for bringing that. I did forget the Dallas County folks, but I brought them up to speed, and we have John Conyers, I mentioned from our staff, provided a really good in-depth as to what the original bill. They've made some adjustments now. Off the top of my head, I think they've eliminated, I think I mentioned earlier, they eliminated the infectious disease issue, and they lowered the window from 5 years to 2 years where an employee could file for a disability or retirement based on a condition that they received in the post 2 years of their retirement. The other specifics I'm not overly aware of, but I know that our staff is following that one.
Yeah. All right, I had nothing further, so with that, ask for a motion and a second to adjourn. So moved. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.